Okay, after a little bit of a hiatus, I'm back again with another video. And in this one, I'm going to be showing the level running in the engine, and it's procedurally generated. So first I'll just show the level, so the mesh. And then I'm going to show the collision geometry for a couple of the meshes so that you can get an idea. But it's just really simple. Convex shapes that give you a rough outline of the geometry, because for this type of game, that's all you really need, and it's really quick to do collision tests with this type of geometry. So there you have it. It's really rough, but good enough for this game. I won't show that one. We've seen that one already. And here's a nice little town level. So if I show the collision, it would be right there. And again, just very rough shapes. And swamp level. And if I shut off, this one's a little complicated. It's got a lot of layers. But the collision is very simplistic again. So it's quick to do tests. And a lot of these collision tests or geometries aren't necessary. They're just there for, I don't know if you remember, I did the shatter meshes, and it's so that when the enemies shatter, their parts can bounce off the world. So it's just enough to give it a little bit of realism. But again, very simple shapes, so it's easy and quick to do tests. So in the next part of this video, I'll just do the level chunks running in the game, and I'll just talk quickly about how I implemented it. So that's in the next part of the video. Okay, here I have the levels running in the game engine, and it's procedurally generated, and I can also control some of the generation. So I can also inject my own level chunks at certain points in the game. So it's both procedurally generated and also generated by me. I have that choice. And I did that by using a script which gives the engine the rules on how it can stitch together all the level chunks I showed in Maya. But as you can see, it's up and running, and you can get a pretty good variety from all the different chunks. And again, the collision geometry works. For instance, I can hit that post and it'll get detected. I can also bounce off the posts if I can. There I go. And then the overlord comes in to chase after you because you've hit something. Then he disappears. So everything's up and running. I'll just have it run through so you can see all the level chunks and a bit of the variety. But again, the particle systems work like before. So it looks pretty good. I learned quite a few things about how to generate these levels. So when I make another level, I'll have better instructions to give to the artist. So the next level I do, once I update the game, will be way better than this one, because now I know how to do the levels a little bit better than what I've done for this one. But this one, it looks pretty good. There's a nice big house. And again, it's just stitching the levels. It selects a chunk, and then when it needs to add another chunk based on the one that it's last added, I've given the engine rules on what it can add. So certain chunks it won't add based on the last chunk that was generated, and that's what it does. I also, once you get far enough along the level, I wrap the world so it goes back to the origin. So it doesn't keep adding infinitely, because eventually you'll get floating point issues if you are dealing with too large numbers. So I just, every once in a while, periodically, I wrap the world and we start again from the origin. But you'll never see that. It's seamless and it's being done in the engine. I'm pretty sure it's been done already by the engine and you haven't noticed. So let's see. I'm hoping a bridge might come up. That's one of the things. You can never guarantee what's going to happen. Oh, good. Speak of the devil. Yeah, that's another chunk I wanted to show. And here you can see I've done a little bit of linear fog, so you could get a little bit of atmospheric scattering, so you can have a little bit of just a simple effect. I didn't want to do full fogging because this isn't the Nintendo 64 era, so I didn't want my game to have, you know, the fog of war that hides the level at a distance. I wanted the player to be able to see it, but I still wanted to simulate some sort of atmospheric effect, so I did a slight linear fog effect in the shader so that you can see that the objects are a little bit hazy in the distance. And then just when they come into view, then, you know, the effect disappears. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with how the level turned out, and you get some pretty good variety. Probably the next thing I'm going to do is start putting back the obstacles and the trains and the enemy knights that you have to face off against. And those will also be generated procedurally. So here's another level chunk. So the next thing I decided to show is I'll probably show this in wireframe so you can get an idea of the mesh complexity and the draw distance that I'm using, so that I don't get any pop in. And that's one thing I noticed, because I curved the world, I had to use I would say a little bit more than normal draw distance, but the engine can handle it, which is another thing. I was really conservative with the geometry and forcing the artist to try and cut down on their polygon usage, but now that I've tested in the engine, it really wasn't necessary. The engine can handle it, and so can the phone. So for the next level, I'm not going to be so strict with the artists and their triangle counts. They'll have much more freedom, so the meshes will be more complicated than what you're seeing here. So here he is running around. I'll probably crash him into a wall next, since I think we've seen enough of the levels. Maybe I'll crash him into the post. Yeah, I'll let him crash there. And then the Overlord will come and pick him up. Yeah, there we go. So there you have it, procedural level generation running in the level. And I'm pretty happy with the way the levels turned out, and the artist did a great job. And there you can see also the fogging that I did in the background. So the next thing I'm going to show is the same level that you saw, but in wireframe mode. So that's the final part of the video. Alright, here we have the level in wireframe, so you can get an idea of the mesh complexity and also the draw distance. I had to give it a little bit more of a draw distance just because the way the world curves, sometimes you'd see like some of the mesh coming in to the frustrum. So if I shrunk it, you would see objects sort of popping in. So I gave it a generous draw distance so that I could avoid any pop in. But you can see that the phone can handle this type of mesh complexity, and it's running at 60 frames a second, no problem. It's not even burdened. So definitely both the engine and the phone can handle this. So I'll just keep running it a little so that we can see a few of the levels. Or the level chunks, I should say. So again, what I do is I have a Maya plugin that exports it into a custom format that's used by the engine, and then the engine loads those data files, and there's a scene manager that's optimized to display this type of scene and this type of scene only. I didn't do occlusion culling for the static meshes because there's just no point. They render plenty fast. There is occlusion culling for skinned meshes, so if they show up if the enemy characters show up at the bottom of the world and they're occluded, I won't animate them or skin them. So there is that speed up, and that gained me a lot of speed, because you know whatever isn't seen that you don't render is always a big win. But for these meshes, it doesn't matter. They're fairly lightweight, and neither the GPU or the CPU are burdened by them, so I didn't bother doing occlusion with them. But there you have it. You can see the level done in wireframe. I thought I'd just include it so you could get an idea of what's being rendered. So till next time, that's all I have to show, and hopefully I can show something soon without any long breaks like the last time. Thanks, and bye.